"You don't get to destroy this family and then cry about it," my brother said, standing in the doorway of my bedroom while my suitcase sat open on the bed. "You ruined everything." I was 19. It was February 3rd, 31 degrees outside. I had $86 in my checking account, a 2006 Toyota Corolla with a slipping transmission, and nowhere to go that wasn't already someone else's problem. By midnight, I was pulling out of our driveway while my mother watched from behind the living room curtains. My phone didn't ring that night. Not from my brother. Not from my mother. Not from a single relative who had eaten at our Thanksgiving table 2 months earlier. 12 years later, my brother found me online. He sent a message that sounded like concern. What he got back instead was evidence. But what cracked him wasn't my anger. It was a bank statement he never thought I'd see. I'll get to that. But first, you need to understand what kind of family lets a 19-year-old girl drive off into the February cold with less than $100 and calls it accountability. Before I go further, if you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, take a second to like and subscribe, only if this resonates. And tell me where you're watching from. I read every comment. Now, let me take you back to the winter of 2014, the night everything split. My father had died 3 years earlier. Sudden heart failure at 52. No warning. No long goodbye. Just a hospital room and paperwork. After he was gone, my brother Ethan stepped into the space like it had been waiting for him. Ethan was 27 then. Confident. Polished. The kind of man who wore button-down shirts to casual dinners and said things like, "Let's be rational," before bulldozing a conversation. He handled the finances. That's what he told everyone. "Dad trusted me," he'd say. My mother, Carol, nodded along to everything he said. She was soft-spoken, the kind of woman who clipped coupons and apologized when someone else bumped into her. Grief hollowed her out, and Ethan filled the hollow. I was the youngest. Community college. Part-time job at a daycare. I still kept my dad's old truck key on my keychain, even though the truck had been sold. According to Ethan, I was irresponsible, too emotional, too trusting, too young to understand how money works. After my father died, there was a life insurance payout. Not massive, but enough. A little over $240,000 after hospital bills. Ethan told us it would cover the mortgage and stabilize things. I believed him. I didn't ask questions at first. Why would I? He was my brother. The problem started with a letter. A thin white envelope from the insurance company addressed to me. It arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while Ethan was at work and Mom was at Bible study. I almost didn't open it. Inside was a statement summary showing disbursement allocations. 3 equal transfers. 1 to my mother. 1 to Ethan. 1 to me. $68,500. Transferred 2 weeks earlier. To an account ending in 4172. I didn't own an account ending in 4172. I checked my online banking twice to be sure. My only account ended in 9038. Balance, $86.17. I stared at the letter long enough for the numbers to blur. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was paperwork lag. Maybe I was misunderstanding something. That night, I asked Ethan about it at the dinner table. He didn't blink. "That's consolidated," he said, cutting into his chicken. Dad wanted everything managed together. The letter said individual beneficiary. I pointed that out. His fork stopped midair just for a second. "You think I'd steal from you?" he asked, calm and controlled. My mother's eyes flicked between us. "I'm just asking," I said. "You're accusing," he corrected. I didn't push further that night. But I didn't sleep either. The next morning, I called the insurance company directly. I pretended I needed clarification on tax documentation. The representative was polite and efficient. "Yes, Ms. Mitchell. Your portion was transferred on January 18th to the account listed on file." "What account is that?" I asked. She read the last 4 digits. "Can you confirm the name on that account?" I asked. "I'm sorry, I can't disclose that. It's mine." I lied quickly. "I just need to verify." There was a pause. "Yes, it's under Ethan Mitchell." The air left my lungs so fast I had to sit down. "Are you sure?" "Yes, ma'am." It was updated 2 weeks before the transfer. Updated. 2 weeks before. My brother had changed my beneficiary deposit information. When he got home that evening, I was waiting at the kitchen table with the letter. I called them, I said.
He didn't ask who.
You changed the account. My mother was standing at the sink. She froze. Ethan set his keys down slowly. I protected it, he said. From who? I asked. From you. That was when it shifted. Not into a conversation, but into a verdict. You're 19, Lauren. You don't even know how to file your own taxes. Dad would have wanted me to manage it until you were stable. It's my name on the letter. It's my responsibility to make sure you don't blow it. I looked at my mother. Mom. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Ethan's just trying to keep things secure, she said quietly.
Secure.
$68,500. Secure in his account. I want it transferred to mine, I said. His jaw tightened. You're not ready. I'm legally an adult. You're acting like a child. It escalated from there. Not yelling at first, just controlled sentences, each one sharper than the last. You're selfish. You don't understand long-term planning. You're destabilizing this house. Then the line I will never forget. You already ruined this family once when Dad died, and you fell apart. I won't let you ruin it again. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember raising my voice. But I remember saying, you stole from me. And that's when he stood too. If you think that, he said, you don't need to live here. My mother whispered. Ethan? He didn't look at her. You can't accuse me of something like that and stay under this roof. I waited for my mother to say something stronger. She didn't. 31 degrees outside. $86 in my account. 19 years old.
I packed a duffel bag.
Ethan followed me down the hallway. You'll come crawling back when you realize how hard real life is, he said. I stepped outside without answering. The Corolla struggled to start. It always did in cold weather. I drove to the grocery store parking lot off Route 9 because it was open late and well lit. I reclined the driver's seat. I watched my breath fog the windshield. I told myself it was temporary. No one called. Not that night. Not the next morning. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. For one split second, I thought it was my mother. It was a fraud alert from my bank asking if I had attempted a $1,200 withdrawal. I hadn't. The transaction was pending. Account ending in 9038. My account. I stared at the notification until the screen dimmed.
I klikka no.
The transaction disappeared. Then another alert came through.
Password changed.
I tried logging in. Locked out. I sat there in that freezing parking lot and realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. This wasn't about protection. It wasn't about stability. It was about control. And I had just challenged the wrong person. The first night in the car was cold. The second was colder. By the third, my fingers were stiff enough that I couldn't feel the steering wheel properly. I parked behind a 24-hour pharmacy the second night, hoping the security cameras would keep anyone from knocking on my window. At 3:07 a.m., someone did. A man in a reflective vest. Late 50s. Soft eyes. You okay in there? He asked gently. Yes, sir, I said automatically. He studied me for a moment. You got somewhere to go? Working on it. He nodded once. Stay safe. That man, a stranger on an overnight shift, was the first person to check on me. Not my brother. Not my mother. A stranger. On the third night, I broke. I called my mother. It rang 6 times. Voicemail. I called Ethan.
Blocked.
3 contacts. 3 silences. At 11:42 p.m., I called my old high school friend, Marissa Cole. She answered on the second ring. Lauren? What's wrong? I tried to speak. Nothing came out but air. Where are you? She asked. Route 9, I whispered. Stay there. My mom's coming. 28 minutes later, headlights cut across the asphalt. Marissa's mother stepped out of a silver minivan and opened my car door. She took one look at me, and her expression changed. Sweetheart, she said softly, you're freezing. She wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and helped me into her passenger seat. "You're safe now," she said. That was the first time anyone had said that in 3 days. And I believed her. I didn't know then that it would take 12 years for my brother to understand what he'd done. But I knew one thing. I was done asking for permission to exist. The first time my brother saw me again after I left home, he pretended he didn't. It was 11 months later. I was standing outside the courthouse on a gray Tuesday morning in March, holding a manila folder thick enough to bend at the corners. The wind kept trying to pry it from my hands. I gripped it tighter. Inside were copies. Not accusations. Not opinions. Copies. Bank transfers. Property tax receipts. Loan applications signed in my name. Emails sent from my brother's account at 2:14 a.m., pretending to be me. He walked past me like I was a stranger. He was wearing the same navy coat he had worn the night he told me I ruined the family. He didn't look surprised to see me. He looked annoyed. "You're really doing this?" he said quietly, like I was embarrassing him in public. "I'm filing a correction," I said. "That's dramatic."
No, iraplia.
"It's documented." He laughed. He actually laughed. "You think a few papers are going to change what you did?" I didn't answer. Because here's what he didn't know. I hadn't filed anything yet. I wanted him to read it first. 12 years had passed. 12 birthdays I wasn't invited to. 12 holidays where my name was a silence in the room. 12 years of being the unstable one. And in those 12 years, I built something he never expected. Stability. After I left, I rented a room for $420 a month above a tailor shop. I worked 2 jobs. I finished my degree at night. I kept every receipt, every bank statement, every email. I didn't know back then why I kept them. I just knew that someday I might need to prove I wasn't crazy. Because when someone repeats a lie long enough, it starts sounding like history. But history leaves fingerprints. And I had found them. The house my parents almost lost when I was 19. The emergency loan my brother said I took out. It was refinanced under my Social Security number. Not once. 3 times. He had used my identity while telling everyone I was reckless. And when the bank finally called the house asking for me, he told them I had left town and cut contact. That phone call was the night he stood in the kitchen and said I ruined everything. I was the scapegoat for debt I didn't create. And I didn't even know it at the time. The discovery came 8 years later. I was applying for a mortgage. The loan officer paused. "There's a pattern here," she said carefully. "Have you owned property before?"
No.
She turned the screen toward me. There it was. 3 refinances tied to my name. Dated the year I left. My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. Because suddenly everything made sense. The blame. The urgency to push me out. The speed at which the story spread through extended family. He hadn't just blamed me. He needed me gone. So the debt couldn't find him. I didn't confront him immediately. I hired someone. A forensic accountant named Claire, who charged $175 an hour and didn't flinch when I told her the story. Within 4 months, she had a timeline. Every transfer. Every forged signature. Every digital login. He wasn't careful. He was confident. That's different. Confident people leave trails because they don't think anyone will follow. And I waited. Not for revenge. For clarity. I wanted him to look at it. To read it. To see, in black ink, that the narrative he built had cracks in it. So, 12 years later, I asked him to meet me. He chose the courthouse cafe because, in his words, "You like drama." I arrived early. He showed up exactly 7 minutes late. He didn't sit fully in the chair. He perched, like he had somewhere better to be. "Make this quick," he said. I slid the folder across the table. He didn't touch it at first. "What is this?" "Truth," I said calmly. He rolled his eyes but opened it anyway. The first few pages didn't change his expression. Bank summaries. Property ID numbers. Refinance documentation. Then he reached the signature comparisons. Claire had enlarged them side by side. My actual signature from a verified ID document. And the forged ones. Not even close. His jaw shifted. He turned another page. Login records. IP addresses tied to his home office. Timestamped. Correlated. He stopped moving. He didn't flip to the next page. He just stared. You went digging, he said finally. Yes. You hired someone? Yes. For what? To embarrass me? I shook my head. To correct the record. His fingers tightened around the paper. For the first time in 12 years, he wasn't performing. He wasn't explaining. He wasn't rewriting. He was reading. And reading doesn't let you interrupt. You think this proves something? He muttered. It proves I didn't ruin the family. Silence. Real silence. The kind that presses into your ears. He closed the folder slowly, then opened it again, then closed it. His breathing changed. Not dramatic, just heavier. Because confidence evaporates when documentation enters the room. You're going to sue me, he said flatly. I haven't decided. That was true. I hadn't. Not yet. Because this meeting wasn't about money.
It was about ownership.
He had carried a story for 12 years.
And it worked.
Until paper showed up. He leaned back in the chair, finally sitting fully. What do you want? There it was. Not denial. Not outrage. Negotiation. I looked at him the way I used to when I was 19 and still wanted him to approve of me. Only this time, I didn't. I want you to say it, I said. Say what? That I didn't ruin the family. His jaw flexed. His eyes dropped to the folder again. His hand trembled just slightly as he touched the page with a forged signature. He swallowed. And for the first time in 12 years, he didn't have a version ready. His voice came out quieter than I'd ever heard it. I was trying to fix things, he said. That's not what I asked. He closed his eyes for a moment. And that's when it happened. The crack. Not loud. Not explosive. But visible. The confidence fractured. The narrative slipped. And he finally whispered, I shouldn't have used your name. Not an apology, but an admission. And admissions change everything. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded once. Because the truth doesn't need celebration. It just needs air. And for the first time in 12 years, it had some. He thought the admission would be enough. It wasn't. Because whispers don't repair 12 years of damage. And I wasn't 19 anymore. 2 weeks after that cafe meeting, I sent a certified letter.
Not to him.
To the family group email he had controlled for over a decade. Subject line, correction. Attached were 47 pages. The timeline Claire built. The forensic signature comparison. The refinance documents. The IP address logs. A short statement from me, 3 paragraphs, no emotion, no adjectives. Just facts. I pressed send at 6:42 p.m. on a Sunday. I remember the time, because my hands were steady. The first reply came from my aunt. Is this real? The second came from my cousin. Why are we just hearing about this? Then silence. Heavy silence. The kind that moves through group chats like fog. My brother didn't respond for 19 hours. When he did, it was 5 sentences. He said the situation was more complicated. He said he had been under pressure. He said he had protected the family. He never denied the documents. He never said they were false. Because he couldn't. By Tuesday, the phone call started. Not to him.
To me.
My mother called first. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Why didn't you tell me? She asked.
I almost laughed.
Tell her what? That the son she trusted had refinanced the house in my name? That the night I was told to pack my things was the same week a loan cleared? You chose who to believe, I said gently. Silence on the other end. Then, I didn't know. That sentence used to hurt. Now it just sounded late. My father didn't call. He showed up. He stood in my driveway at 7:15 p.m. 3 days later, holding printed copies of the documents like they might disappear. Is this accurate? He asked. Yes. He flipped through the pages slowly. When he reached the IP address logs tied to my brother's home office, his face changed. Not anger. Recognition.
He knew what that meant.
He sat down on my front steps without asking. I told him to handle it, he said quietly. Handle what? The refinancing. I didn't want your mother to panic. There it was. The origin. A decision made in convenience. Delegated. Unquestioned. And using my name? I asked. He didn't answer. Because some things don't have clean explanations. By the end of that week, the story shifted. Not loudly, but steadily. Family members who hadn't spoken to me in years began texting. I'm sorry. I wish we had asked questions. I didn't realize. It wasn't dramatic. It was awkward. Truth usually is. Then came the moment my brother didn't expect. My father called a family meeting. In person. At the same dining table where I was told I ruined everything. 12 years earlier, I had stood there alone. This time, I walked in with a folder. He was already seated.
He didn't look at me.
Not at first. My mother's hands trembled as she poured water. My father cleared his throat. I've reviewed the documentation, he said slowly. It appears we misplaced blame. Misplaced blame. Corporate phrasing for emotional destruction. But it was something. My brother finally spoke. It wasn't supposed to go that far. I looked at him. How far did you think it would go? He didn't respond. Because lies don't come with expiration dates. They spread until someone stops them. My father turned to him. Did you use her identity without consent? Silence. Longer this time. Then, yes. One word.
Clean.
Irrefutable. My mother covered her mouth. Not because she was shocked. Because she was ashamed. And shame changes the temperature of a room. For 12 years, I was the cautionary tale. The unstable one. The irresponsible one. The one who left. Now the room felt different. Balanced. My brother looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Structurally. Like the story that held him upright had collapsed. What happens now? My cousin asked. Everyone looked at me. And that was the part one hadn't expected. Power is strange when you've lived without it. I'm not filing criminal charges, I said evenly. My brother's shoulders dropped an inch. I am filing a civil correction with the bank and credit agencies. He stiffened again. I've already started the process. That meant investigations.
Audits.
Reviews. Not jail. But consequences. You'd really do that? He asked quietly. I already did. Because here's what he misunderstood. Forgiveness doesn't erase documentation. By the end of that month, the refinance loans were formally flagged. My credit report was corrected. The bank initiated its own inquiry. And my brother? He lost access to certain accounts during the review. Temporary, they said. But pressure doesn't feel temporary when it lands. Clients he managed began asking questions. The bank requested explanations. Internal compliance got involved. Nothing dramatic.
No handcuffs. No shouting.
Just scrutiny. And scrutiny is heavier than anger. One evening he called me. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Just tired. I never thought you'd actually keep everything, he said. I didn't either, I replied. There was a long pause. Then he asked the question that revealed everything. Do they look at me differently now? I thought about it. Yes. Another silence. And you, he asked. I see you clearly. That was the quiet consequence. Not court. Not money.
Clarity.
He had built his authority on a story where I was the flaw. Without that story, he had to stand on his own. And for the first time in 12 years, he didn't know how. Last month, my father introduced me at a family gathering. This is my daughter, he said.
No disclaimers. No explanations.
Just my name.
It was a small sentence.
But it carried 12 years inside it. I didn't get an apology tour. I didn't need one. Because the truth had already done its work. He said, I ruined the family at 19. 12 years later, he read the evidence. And the only thing that cracked
was the lie.